Hi, today we're going to talk a bit about socioeconomics and computer-assisted language learning, or CALL. So how can CALL empower or marginalize learners? I'm Catherine Johnston.
And I'm Kyle Roden. Okay, so we're going to be talking about an overview of call implementations and what different characteristics are of successful and unsuccessful implementations, and then hopefully give you a few considerations to take before you implement your own call curriculum.
All right, so the first implementation we're going to look at is 3 case studies of one-to-one laptop program implementations in 4th and 5th grade classrooms. This was done across 3 school districts and included 5 schools total. In the Birmingham School District, it was 95% African American, and 85% of the students there received free or reduced lunch. The training that went into the program for teachers was 2 hours, and it was one time only. And in terms of infrastructure, there was no wireless in the classrooms, and parents were expected to maintain laptops. In the Saugus School District, overall in the district, it was 50% white, 30% Hispanic, and about 20% English language learners. They looked at 2 schools that varied. One had a higher percentage of lower income English language learners, and the other had higher income students. The training that teachers received was about 40 hours of training prior to program implementation. And then throughout the school year, they would have about 40 hours of peer mentoring, where an expert teacher would lead a training workshop. And the district was also committed to providing ongoing professional development. And all of the classrooms had wireless access, and the district took care of laptop maintenance. Similarly, in Littleton, this was a mostly white upper-class school district, but they looked at 2 different schools, one that had a 70% English language learner population, and another that was higher income. Here also, teachers received a week-long professional development program before implementing the one-on-one laptops, and there was also ongoing professional development. And like in Saugus, the classrooms all had wireless access, and the district maintained the laptops. So, the results, what they found. In Birmingham, there was an increased use of laptops outside of class for non-academic purposes. About 20% of students reported never using their laptop in school. Some students participated in an after-school club to learn Scratch, which is a programming platform language. The teachers did not use laptops in class. They even reported not knowing how to use them. And ultimately, this program was terminated in 2010. In the Saugus and Littleton school districts, across both, students used the laptops for about 2 hours a day for writing activities. These varied from collaborative editing, writing, doing blogs, wikis, using them for research. In both districts, saw students have gains for writing ability and quality. In the Saugus School District, all students had gains. In the Littleton School District, it was just the Hispanic and English language learners that had significant gains, but all students made some gains. In both districts, the lower socioeconomic status, minority, and English language learner students used laptops more than the other groups. Both found that the laptops were a good addition to class. Students reported feeling more excited about writing after the implementation of the laptops. And both programs are currently expanding. In the Saugus School District, they are needing some financial help, so parents have fundraised the money to cover the difference. Littleton is a little bit wealthier, so they actually could expand without fundraising support and have implemented a stipend-funded volunteer teacher training program where volunteer teachers are given a small stipend in order to lead ongoing professional development workshops.
Okay, so the next study we're going to look at is the one laptop per child program where 2 different groups were researched in Lima, Peru. The groups were randomized insofar as the winners received laptops and the losers or the non-winners did not receive laptops. These were in elementary schools. 610 laptops were distributed in total. So the laptops themselves were EXO laptops, which was a cheaper laptop, but they did have lots of software such as word processing. It has educational games, ebooks, and some programming software. As far as the implementation of the program, there was laptop training. Students received an instructional manual, and there were 2-hour trainings over 7 weeks. But student attendance was pretty low, actually, about 50% on average for those trainings. And one of the interesting things here is that the researchers weren't looking to see how the laptops were used in the curriculum. The teachers didn't really use the laptops at all. Instead, they were just looking at the effect of students' skills of using computers and their cognitive ability in general. And so what they found was there was essentially no difference in cognitive ability between the two groups. There was an obvious result insofar as the laptop group did become more proficient with the laptops. And then the teachers did report that the students that received laptops were actually exerting less effort in class. And so the takeaway for the researchers was that placing computers and technology in classroom doesn't really address pedagogical challenges, and it can actually be a distracting force from learning outcomes. And so the next study was looking at some California high schools which varied in socioeconomic status. In terms of the English language learners, there were 10.3% English language learners in the high socioeconomic status schools and 31.4% in the low. The schools also varied in their academic performance index, whereas the meaning that the low socioeconomic schools were in the bottom 40% of the index, and the high socioeconomic schools were in the top 20%. And so what they found was there was a big difference in the way that the technology was utilized between the schools. The lower status schools tended to use the computers for teaching basic skills, like in using a spell checker, whereas the high socioeconomic schools did more statistical analysis and critical thinking. And so this is in reference to Bloom's taxonomy, which we're going to talk about a little bit more in a second. And so one of the other biggest differences is that there was essentially no support network for the lower status schools. In fact, the computer lab and the internet had been open for 5 months before any of the teachers even knew that it was available. And then the high socioeconomic schools, they had a dedicated media specialist, and there were teachers who were being paid to help other teachers during one of their periods. Okay, and so just to refer back to Bloom's taxonomy again, the 3 higher orders represent learning which is more critical and evaluating and analyzing in nature, and involves creative problem solving, creating a product of some kind, whereas the lower 3 taxonomic levels are just more basic learning, remembering, translating, these sorts of things, finding information on the internet.
All right, so just to bring it back together, what makes implementing technology in the classroom successful? First and foremost, you need to consider the needs of the students, the teachers, and other stakeholders. Is the technology going to be used to help them? And what training do all of those people need in the use and implementation of this technology? Training is key. If teachers don't feel like they know how to use it, they will not use it. If students don't know how to use the technology for what they are expected to do, they will not use it. And using the technology to meet predefined pedagogical needs. So what should come first is the learning goals. Design your learning goals first, and then decide if technology is appropriate for that. And also, when designing your learning goals, lean them towards creating, evaluating, and analyzing. That results in happier students and happier teachers and better learning overall.
Cool. And then on the opposite of that, of what Catherine just mentioned, not giving training will make a technology and curriculum unsuccessful, and providing no support, and obviously not talking to the stakeholders and just giving computers to a program isn't going to really be helpful. In fact, it can be detrimental. And then the other thing is that the task needs to be principle. The tool should not be designed around the task, but the task should be, or the tool should be fitted to the task. The tool should be selected based on its ability to accomplish the learning outcomes.
So, you want to implement CALL in your curriculum, in your classroom. What do you need to think about? What are the needs of the stakeholders? What does the administration want you to do? What does the department want you to do? What are the students' needs? Do they have goals that are different than the needs of the department and the administrators? What are your needs? What do you want your students to do? Consider all of these. And obviously, what do they need to learn? So those are your pedagogical goals. And then you got to think about what tool or tools best suit the pedagogical and practical needs. We are living in a tech-saturated time, but just because it is there does not mean it is the best tool for you to use. Training. Does everyone know how to implement and use the technology? Make sure that it is understood by everyone. It is frustrating when you are given a tool to use and you don't know how to use it, you don't know how to implement it, and often when that happens, you will decide not to use it, and so learning suffers.
Okay. And so during the implementation of a CALL curriculum, all the stakeholders need to analyze the implementation and see how is it effective, how is it not effective. And also everyone needs to be paying attention to the order of the learning outcomes. If you're just using computers to have students look up words in a dictionary, it's just not an effective use of the real power of the tool. And then at the end of the implementation, all the stakeholders need to analyze the outcomes and then redesign and reassess according to those outcomes, using the data to make the curriculum better.
And obviously, even though we have presented this in a linear manner, you need to circle around. It's not just a straight line. Go back at various points and reconsider. All right, these are our references. We're just going to let you pause here if you want to look any of these up. Highly recommended for reading. And then thank you. We are going to have an online discussion, and we really look forward to seeing your questions and comments in the discussion that follows.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.